Okay, hello. So, you want to scale your plumbing business, but you want to know how. So, who this video is going to be for? If you are currently a plumber, hopefully, or a heating engineer, you might fall into this category. You might rely on word of mouth. You might be buying poor quality shared leads. Absolutely no predictability to scale. Your customers don't even trust you, like, forget about it. You've got no systems in place, like, who even knows how this is being held together? Like, I don't. And you're busy, but you're stuck between 2 and 5K, which is great, isn't it? And you've also got like Plumber B. So this guy has predictable bookings each month. The leads basically come to you. They're exclusive, so that's all you want. He has full control of what type of jobs and the amount of jobs he gets. He isn't fighting for scraps. He has it dialed in. He is highly trusted from all angles, so he can charge more upfront, and people actually pay on time because they value him. How this guy does it, who knows? He also has systems in place doing all of the work, so he isn't constantly chasing things up. Like they just actually work. So that's good. And yeah, and he has the room to scale to 10K, 20K, 50K per month as a business, and really that's the end goal if you're a plumber, isn't it? Like you don't want to be fighting for terrible leads every month. So here's what we're going to cover: your current setup and why it's not working, um, different methods of getting customers, and then how these systems work, like the actual fix, how they actually work. So most plumbing system, most plumbing businesses can be broken down into these three categories. You've got the acquisition, the ops, the fulfillment. The acquisition is basically the leads. It's the work you get. I don't know where you get it from, but wherever you get it from is the work you get. Then ops is assigning that work. Either you pick up all the work and you remember to show up at 9 a.m. tomorrow, or you give it to Jim, who hopefully shows up at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Um, and then you've got the fulfillment, doing that work that you booked in, which is the actual plumbing, which is what you want. So most plumbing businesses, they're great at the plumbing work, which is good. Some of them are like okay at the ops. They don't really, yeah. But 90% of them, the main bottleneck that they have is actually the acquisition and leads. And it's kind of what holds back 90% of plumbing businesses and what keeps them stuck at that like 2K to 5K range. And as you can see, if you don't fix this problem, you don't really get a chance to fix either of these because this one will hold you back across all areas. And a lot of plumbers know that because month to month they have no work despite the fact that they're really good at what they do. Because all the way back here, this problem isn't fixed. So today we're basically going to look at fixing that and how it's going to spill over to the rest of your business and have that impact. So this is the most common setup that is run by plumbers, basically. You've got the plumber, you've got the business, and it basically relies on word of mouth and Checkatrade. It's really just these two things powering the whole business. The problem with these is that word of mouth is inconsistent. You're kind of week on week hoping that someone talks about needing a plumber that month to the person that you know, so you can get that recommendation, which is like doesn't happen often, right? And it's unpredictable. Even if you do get that recommendation, how do you know? Like, you get two recommendations per month. How do you know it's going to be a tap repair or a bathroom job or a boiler job? Like, you don't have that control. So, word of mouth is definitely something, but you wouldn't hire someone because you have a word of mouth business, because you just can't guarantee that predictable work. Check a trade. It's a little bit better. We're moving in the right direction, but it's poor quality. The leads are sold to 20 other plumbers. There are subscription fees just to play the game. And every quarter, it feels like there are new schemes to get you to pay more. And the business model is basically that, it's to extract from you. Like, it doesn't really help you long term. It just feels like a pain most of the time. So it's slightly more consistent, still not great or efficient though. now you finally have access to leads, but A, they suck, and B, a lot of the time you don't even get access to them after you actually pay for them because you're in competition with so many other people. So we're making progress. Why is Checkatrade slightly better? Has access to slightly more consistent sources of leads, like I just said. So, but that's only if you get the job. Well, you can always do these things to improve. You can collect more reviews and slightly stand out, and you can get a bigger plan and pay for more leads to get a higher chance to get booked in. But all of these things are marginal and they're still not good enough to actually improve anything. So, what does the situation actually look like? Because this isn't looking good. And the situation is basically this. You've got the customer that needs a plumber, and you've got the actual plumber, which is you, and then you've got this third party platform in the middle, and they're like, hey, by the way, do you need a plumber? Because we have plumbers. And to the plumbers, they're like, hey, do you need leads? Because we have leads. And that seems like a good deal for the customer. The customer gets a plumber, and the plumber gets a customer, but it's all a bit backwards because the customer doesn't really know what the hell is going on. They don't want to sign up for things. They don't want to get spammed by email. Like, why is this process so complicated? They just want to get a phone number and ring someone. So they're super confused in this whole process. And the only reason they're here is because the first place they landed is the platform they're on. They don't really know what they're doing, to be fair. Like, this could be someone's grandma. She's completely lost. Like, someone needs to come get their grandma, basically. And this is the plumber who also isn't really sure what's going on because he doesn't really know where the leads actually come from. He just kind of pays these platforms and hopefully one of them gives him a chance to message them. And these platforms, they love it. They basically stand in the middle of you guys where you guys are the ones that want each other, that need each other, and these guys just kind of stand in the middle. They make all of the money, and then the customer is just left frustrated, and then you're left without work. So it's not really a great system. So wait, so these third party platforms are not really helping the customer or you? No. That's why you can't depend on either of these methods to build your business. 90% of plumbing businesses are running that exact setup and have the same problems. So if word of mouth is not a real system and unreliable, and third party platforms like Checkatrade are a system, just not a very good one, what can we do? And there's actually something better, and what's better is that these platforms, they can basically be summarized and illustrated as this example here. So again, we've got you, the plumber, and this is basically what Checkatrade looks like. It's a bunch of other plumbers that just dumped into a box, and a couple of leads show up here and there, and then the platform basically takes those leads and tries to sell them to you. And like, that's kind of the whole name of the game, try and get as much money as possible for the small amount of leads that comes through. But when you zoom out beyond Checkatrade, you actually see, well, any platform, not any specific platform, but they all work very similarly. You can actually see that, there's a lot more outside of Checkatrade or any platform again. Like, so yeah, so that's just one platform, and that's everything else around it. So what's outside of Checkatrade, if we actually have to look at it? Well, we can take a look at it by analyzing the different methods of getting leads. So again, we've got our trusty plumber and the business, and we've already covered word of mouth and Checkatrade. And the other methods that basically stand out the most are Google and social media. So both of those methods and most methods in general can be broken down into two things. You've got low intent methods and high intent methods. Low intent is basically when someone isn't looking for a plumber right now. And high intent is basically when the problem already exists. So low intent can look like scrolling on Facebook, seeing a ad for a plumber or a bathroom installation or a boiler repair and going, hey, my boiler isn't actually broken. But that could be useful one day. Cool. I'm gonna keep scrolling. I'm gonna go back to memes. And high intent is basically when someone's boiler has just exploded and they're screaming and they're like, oh my god, my boiler, what's going on? And the wife is screaming at her husband, which one is the right number, Steve? Because she's trying to find the plumber. So that's high intent. So as you can see, high intent is a lot more urgent, a lot more demand for buying. The low intent. So basically, we can actually split this into like a graph of like high intent and predictability and kind of get a little bit of a better breakdown for it. So if we look at this, one of the methods that we covered a minute ago, word of mouth, is actually on here. Word of mouth is actually interesting because it's not all bad in theory, but it's still terrible pretty much. And you can't really scale a business on it because word of mouth, yeah, when you get that recommendation, it's high intent. Like that person will most likely work with you. But it's so unpredictable that it makes it almost worthless because cool, you'll get that job when someone recommends you. But when? Like how do you hire help for that? You can't. And we've also got low intent. So an example of something that has low predictability and low intent is flyers. When you give someone a flyer through their door, first of all, they don't want it. Second of all, they're not looking for a plumber. They didn't ask for a plumber, so it's very low intent for them. And it's also extremely low predictability because you can drop off 10,000 flyers. Flyers are just not very effective. Like even if someone needs a plumber, let's say you drop off a flyer of like different local tradespeople, that's going to be on their table and they're going to find a plumber somewhere else. So flyers are just not very effective, but it's a good example. The next option is Facebook, so social media advertising. This is also low intent, like we just covered in that example. Most of the time, people on Facebook are looking at funny videos or new shoes to look at, but it's high predictability. Like Facebook ad campaigns do actually work. You just have to set them up correctly and you can get those results. So it's not a terrible method, it just still seems a little bit not there. And then finally, we've got high intent and high predictability. So Google actually falls into that category because when people need a mechanic or they need a plumber, they don't actually ask their neighbor or their cousin, hey, by the way, do you know any plumbers? They go to the place where they know they're going to get an answer straight away, which is Google. It's also high predictability because statistically, month on month, you can actually see how many people do that. So you can actually see exactly how many people in your area, whether you're in a town or city, search per month for a plumber. And then if you have a business in that, you can actually estimate and base off those numbers how much work you get, like how many people search for that stuff. So it's very predictable, it's very high intent. No one looks up a plumber in a local town for fun. Like they want a plumber when they're searching up for a plumber. Cool. So just a bit more about Facebook. Facebook isn't bad, but you need a different strategy for it. And because it's low intent, it's too risky to step into as the main method of getting leads or your first proper method. So paying someone 2K per month to run AI generated image ads on Facebook is a good way to blow through to 2K when like you just like started your business and like you want to scale things. And once you blow that 2K, then you still have no systems in place as giving money to Facebook isn't a system. It's just ad spend. It's just a write-off. Like that's it. And if you don't have anything to show for it, it's a loss. So we have a clear winner. It is Google. And whether you like Google or not, it's fine. You can forget about the name. You can call it Schmoogle. But what is really important about Schmoogle is that it's the best option because Schmoogle has 90% of market share of the internet. So that's 90% of all searches on the internet go through Google. That's 13 billion to 16 billion searches per day, each day. Plus, on top of that, nearly 98% of consumers search online when they're looking for local businesses, up from 90% in 2019. So, it is the number one place your customers go to, the most common way of finding a local business, and the customers need you because it's high intent, remember? So it's where everyone goes, only people that need you go there, and it's the number one way of finding a local business. It's a pretty good trio. So if we zoom out, we can actually take a look at the big picture. So just a quick note, for those of you who spotted, Checkatrade didn't fall on that graph quadrant because it just didn't. We've already covered it. It's not a good platform, but it is technically on Google. It does fall under that category, which would make it seem like it's also high intent and high predictability. So how can it be on Google and be in the same category but be bad, but Google's good? So we can cover that. So Google consists of a lot of things. So Google as a platform, with its massive market share, it has a lot of things. So it has Google business profiles that it displays. It has all of the websites that it ranks and displays. It has Google Maps that you can search on as well. It has Google Ads, which are displayed with the search results, and also has Google Business Profile ads, which are displayed in the GBP results separately. So there's a lot of things that go into Google. And if we take a closer look and zoom into the all websites section, we can see that this is basically what just that one circle consists of. So a directory will always only have access to a fraction of all the leads. What makes that even worse is that fraction is shared between hundreds of tradesmen. It's kind of like the starving feeding the starved. You're then left having to swallow that pill and find comfort in quarterly price increases. It's not a very fulfilling thing to have to deal with. And this is the example here. So when you have all of the websites ranking, a lot of them will be directories, because it's the same playbook, just repeated. And then you'll have like the normal websites. All of these directories are pretty much the same. And as you can see, if you belong on any of them inside of their ecosystem, on the outside, it might, on the inside, it might feel like it's super full and it's super busy. But when you zoom out, you realize it's only just a fraction of the big picture. So now you're slowly starting to see it. Do you see now how small one platform is in comparison to all? It occupies a small fraction of space inside of another small part of the internet. It leverages on you not knowing how these things work to charge you for any leads that make it onto their platform, while they are secretly fighting each other to get a bite of the scraps to then pass on to you even smaller scraps. You can have access to the exact same leads they have access to. They don't own those leads. They are also begging Google for them. And you don't have to have access to just one lead. All of the leads that would normally go to their whole platform in your area can also be yours. But how? So, surely Checkatrade gets special treatment by Google. Nope. Google prioritizes websites it trusts. It doesn't care whether it's a directory or a Facebook group or a website or whatever you can imagine. If there are no local business websites, no directories for that area, then yes, Google will have no choice but to show a Facebook page for a local business, because that's his best option, which means that Google doesn't give special treatment to directories. It actually does the opposite. All of these directories like Checkatrade, Rate People, My Builder, My Job Quote, and whatever next variation of My Trade Quote they come up with, Google knows they are just scalping customers from local businesses, so they don't get special treatment for it. As much heat as Google gets, they don't want their customers to have to create an account, sign up for email marketing, get bombarded with spam, etc. Just to be able to solve their own plumbing problem. or whatever problem they're facing at the time. Unfortunately, most of the local businesses don't even try to participate in this game, which leaves Google no choice but to show platforms like Checkatrade in their place. As at the end of the day, that does seem like the safe choice when there are literally no other options. So local plumbers feed into this game because they continue to sign up for these platforms and Checkatrade instead of actually participate in the game and having their own kind of racehorse in the game. They kind of just piggyback off the back of a worn down horse that already isn't running very well. And round everyone goes each year and each year. So Google, when it's put in that position, it basically feels like, I can't find any local trustworthy businesses that meet my standards, that pass the criteria checks. So I'll just show this popular platform. Hopefully that satisfies the people searching. And that's actually not a bad solution. A lot of the time it does satisfy those people searching because it's safer for Google to show a platform like Checkatrade when there are no other eligible businesses in its eyes than to show nothing. How can it show nothing? And like in that example earlier, that's the same thing that happens if it's a town where a directory doesn't show up, or say where a directory doesn't show up, but maybe there's a Facebook page that's called something like small town plumbing, and that shows up first. It's because Google doesn't have any other better option. It's just a very sophisticated algorithm that tries to satisfy the customer's search and is trying to do its best job. But all in all, Facebook groups, directories, actual real businesses, Google does actually favor local businesses over these scalping directories when it is able to. Google knows that all local searchers want is a local tradesman to solve their problem. That's it. They don't want to use the middleman as much as you don't. Not only can you beat these scalping directories in your local area as an actual real business, you are the favored one among Google. You also have access to all the other parts of the system in the local area that these platforms don't because they are not a local business. That's why you never see these platforms on maps or as a Google business profile because that is not it's just not something they can have, which is a massive plus for you. So do you now see how all of the authority they have is pretty much just a facade? They do not own the leads, they just collect some and distribute them under the illusion there's a lot to go around. You as a local business have the full advantage. You have Google on your side. You can dominate your local area for every single type of plumbing search inquiry there is. All of them going direct to your phone. No one charging you just so you can speak to your customer. If you don't want to work with them, you just turn them down. They'll find someone on Checkatrade. And what that means for you is no more 20 to 70 pounds per lead just to get ignored. No more fighting 20 other plumbers. You can own everything they try to scalp you for. So isn't that mind-blowing? Well, we've not only learned that platforms like Checkatrade represent a small fraction of all the total work out there, we've also learned that they don't have the advantage they appear to have. And that leaves you as the favored one. You might have started knowing this video, nothing but Checkatrade and word of mouth in your own business. And where Checkatrade once overshadowed your business, you now see that the whole business is built on desperation. Not only do you now know how it all actually works, this whole time you've had the home court advantage and you didn't even realize it because none of these platforms went out of their way to tell you. And of course they wouldn't. Okay. So we've covered so far your current setup and why it isn't working, different methods of getting customers, and now we're finally moving on to how these systems work and the actual fix. So don't worry, we've done most of the heavy lifting to get us ready. We've covered a lot of the ground, a lot of the theory. So now we can move on to what actually matters. So if you remember this diagram from earlier, all of the boxes that represent what's kind of accessible on Google. Now that we've taken directories out of the picture, you can see everything else for you to leverage in your local business clearly. None of these things you have to pay to our directory to participate in. These are all readily available for you to have access to, and they all have their own benefits and can build leverage in your business. So these are kind of what I would call the core four, and that's really important. So this forms the core four. These are all the ways you can be found on Google. Remember, there are not 98% of people that look for local business this way. There are only 4 possible ways to show up in front of them. Checkatrade is only a small fraction of one of the ways. We help you show up in all of them. So to summarize, that consists of your website, your Google business profile, your Google Ads campaigns, and your Google business profile ads. In order to dominate, you need everything built to a high standard. So that includes your website, your Google business profile, your Google Ads, your GBP ads. So your website, it needs to have photos of your team, it needs to have photos of past jobs, it needs to have every single service you provide, it needs to have every single location you serve. The pages need to be built for conversions, they need to be SEO optimized. The website is the powerhouse of your business, basically. It also consists of your Google business profile, where you need to collect reviews, you need to upload your photos, you need to list your services, and you need to connect that to your website. It's very important that you connect it back to your website. Then your campaigns. So both types of campaigns, they need a specific campaign set up for your business. And the other thing, most importantly, that they need is money. Essentially, what that is fuel for the machine. It's fuel for the system to keep spinning and operating. So a quick diagram of what that looks like. So your website and your Google business profile, they kind of feed each other. A strong Google business profile increases the rankings and how many clicks you get on your website, and vice versa. It's a symbiotic relationship. You don't want to try and have a website without a Google business profile, and there really isn't much point to have a Google business profile without a website. It's kind of like a car. You could say, well, the engine's the most important part, but that doesn't mean you can take away the steering wheel. You kind of need all of the pieces to be present in order for it to work properly. So these guys are like in a symbiotic relationship where things are constantly feeding into each other. And then the campaigns, they're kind of like amplifiers where they take your website and your GBP and they just drive more and more and more and more into them. More clicks, more impressions, everything. The campaigns are really good for new businesses to stimulate growth once everything is properly set up. Money in, customers out. It's that simple. By the way, and did I mention that unlike Checkatrade, Google will favor your website the longer it exists. So this is regardless if you're running any paid campaigns. Time is just a trust factor with Google. So just for having these things running, you are benefiting even more down the line. Meaning running costs are going to be lower as your website will organically show up everywhere instead of Checkatrade. Whereas on the flip side, you can guarantee that more tradesmen will join these platforms and the prices will go even higher. The rate at which tradesmen join these platforms is typically higher than the rate at which they leave because most of them don't have an alternative to ever switch to. So the platforms just get diluted. Prices go up, you're competing with more people, it's a lose-lose. And generally, I'd rather take a win-win over a lose-lose. Okay, so the giant funnel. Wait, it's all a giant funnel? It always has been. Each one of these cogs in the machine is a way for you to get leads. Some for free, some paid. But they're all worth it. Way more than any third-party platform. Because you're investing in yourself. The money you pay on leads, memberships, Sometimes you get them, but mostly it's gone thinner. So that's the diagram again. So as you can imagine, all of this working together, what it's basically doing is it's producing this massive influx of customers that are just funneled into your business at different stages for different services from different areas. And you don't have to negotiate for each one and haggle, how much you're going to pay and worry that it's going to be given to like 10 other people, 20 other people. They go directly to you, directly to your phone, and it just becomes a simple question of, hello, I need a boiler repair, and you ask them when. You know, at the end of the day, that's the way it should be. Like, they just need help, and you can help them. So, back to this diagram of, potentially you and your business, and we've went from word of mouth and Checkatrade or any other platform to now you've got your whole setup running. You've got your own website, you've got your Google business profile, you've got your Google ads, you've got your GBP ads, and it's a little bit different. It's predictable this time. You know exactly how much you invest each month as fuel to feed the machine. You can predict how many leads and for what kind of jobs you get this month based on the last few months. It's a lot more scalable, so Google literally rewards you over time just for existing, whereas you don't really get that back on other platforms. If you want to change things up, you can just add new campaigns for specific jobs to get those. It's a system. Like, you can fine tune it, you can specify how you want it to run. What's important is you get it running. That helps you build leverage, and then you can like change the direction and course. And because it's scalable, you will have more than enough work to hire. It's also cost effective. So, by investing in your own business and assets instead of Checkatrade, you actually have something in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And the running costs get lower the longer you have it running because of everything we've discussed. So you finally understand the system behind all of this. How do you make it a reality? So let's go over the options. So option A is you leave your career as a plumber, you learn web development, and you do all of this to get these systems in place. You learn web design, you learn persuasive copywriting that sells, you learn local SEO so you can rank, you learn Google Ads so you don't burn cash, you learn tracking analytics so you can prove with numbers that you don't burn the cash that you invest. You learn Google Business Profile Optimization so you actually show up. You learn review systems to know how to collect good reviews. You learn follow-up and booking systems so you don't lose leads. You learn lead handling and qualifications so you don't get poor leads. You spend thousands of hours working in different industries and testing different things to get good. You burn money while learning to get the experience. And you now have most of the pieces ready to build a system that works for your business. And by the time you've done all of that, you realize that you've forgotten everything about plumbing. So that's not a great option. So option B, you go down the route of hiring a web developer. Seems reasonable. You hire a Google Ads specialist, you hire an SEO technician, you hire a copywriter, you hire someone for tracking, you hire someone for reviews and follow-ups, you hire a project manager to glue it all together, or you lead all of them yourself and hopefully in the right direction. Again, let's see if we've got any other options. Option C, you work with us. You don't lift a finger. We do it all for you and we manage everything. We have everything live and running in 2 weeks once we have the content that we need from you. Your business is transformed and we only get paid if you get results. And you get to keep your career. You don't have to switch careers to make this work. Like, we are more than happy to do this for you. We enjoy this and you enjoy plumbing. So we're not actually selling anything right now. I am being serious about these options. This is something that comes up quite a lot and it's often overlooked and it's just kind of like, wow. I have the right idea. Like I can just do whatever now. But this is also trying to help you find a solution to potentially executing it one day. You know, we've kind of covered the theory, and now it's kind of like execution. We're covering it all. So we're not here to discourage you by saying like, "Hey, don't do it yourself." We're just trying to help you save thousands of hours. And you know, at the end of the day, I'm not a plumber. So what it comes down to is when our boiler broke last year, I didn't ask the plumber how he was going to turn off the gas or which pipe was faulty. It wasn't my job to do that. I have other things to do too. So as much as I respect his profession and I'm glad he fixed it, it wasn't for me to try and diagnose. As far as I'm concerned, the boiler makes things hot. I don't know which pipe exactly, and which is more important than the rest, but I'm thankful for the heat. So it's the same principle for you, you know, it shouldn't be your responsibility to worry about which campaign to set up. We manage it all for you. We're kind of like a partner to your growth and we want to see your success. And we never put you in a position where you're guessing how to do something or what the next best move is because that wouldn't make sense. So now you're either ready to invest in yourself and see the results and you resonate with these pain points and you're like, "Oh, that made a lot of sense. Maybe I should do this." And you don't want to go back to struggling because that would not be a great option. If that is you, then the link in our bio lets you book a 30-minute call and we'll see you inside. Or alternatively, you might be stressed out that you won't be able to afford it, and that's also fine. So the thing is, it was never about selling you something. It was about teaching you and showing you a better way of doing things overall. We just happen to know that we're the right people to execute this and implement the system. And ultimately, yeah, that's true. We can't work for free. We do have our costs. These things take a lot of time, and we've invested thousands of hours just to get to this point. But if you stay this long, then something might have resonated with you. Something might have sounded like it could help you. So, you know, that's kind of the thing. Like the people that we see succeed the most in this space are not always the ones with money up front. Like if you don't have money, that doesn't mean that you're not kind of capable of having this growth or having this impact. The people that see the biggest success is the ones willing to do the work and show up, and the work really isn't that difficult, especially for the reward, you know, because it has a big impact. So we might not be able to work with you now, but you can still book a call and we can have a talk to see where you're at and offer our advice and help. If you have these problems day to day in your business and want to grow and want someone to do it all for you and manage it that you can trust, you know where to book a call with us when you do become ready. It's pretty much just to say that, you know, if you are ready to move forward, that's great. We can definitely work with you. Problem solved. If you're not at that position yet, then you might be. You know, there are things that could be holding you back that are not really holding you back. But most importantly, if there are actually things holding you back, then at least don't discourage yourself. You know, like these things, we're really good at them, and the impact that we have on businesses is great. The worst case scenario is that you could potentially benefit from this, and because of whatever's holding you back, you kind of turn away from it. Because, yeah, that's just not a good scenario. Cool. So, as you can see, we've pretty much covered everything from your current setup and why it probably isn't working if you're stuck at that 2 to 5K range, the different methods of actually getting customers. Like, you know, if someone's calling you up and they're saying like, "Hello, I will run Facebook ads for you. Just pay me a retainer of like 1.5K per month and a budget of 500 to whatever." you can see how that's going to be a little bit more risky than actually putting real systems in place. And we've actually shown you how these systems work. So if you are experiencing these problems in your day-to-day operations and you want things to be smoother, then just book a call below. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment, whatever you're struggling with, and perhaps I'll make another video answering that. So thanks for your time, and hopefully see you on the call.